I'd like to call the November 10th, 2015 Public Works Board to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Fritsch,
Here.
Mr. Shar, Mr. Pickard,
Here.
Mr. Reich, Mrs. Wolf,
Here.
and Mr. Temperley previously informed me he would not be here this evening.
Item 3, correction and/or approval of the minutes of October 13th, 2015. Minutes in our packet.
I'll move the minutes of the last meeting.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the minutes from the last meeting. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 4, questions and public comment. Let's see. And just, this would be for things other than the special assessment for sidewalk installation East Lake Park Place, which is the next item on the agenda. So if you have comments on East Lake Park Place sidewalks, that'll be the next topic. So anything else on it from anybody else? Okay, seeing none, moving on to item 5, public comment, proposed special assessment for sidewalk installation, East Lake Park Place. And so, let's see. I'd just like to go over, before we open up to the floor, to the audience, just the steps of the whole sidewalk process. What we do when, just kind of the steps. This is,
Sure.
yeah,
I'll start that just real briefly here. What we're looking at doing is totally reconstructing Lake Park Place from South Main Street to just east of Pinnacle. And we will take it from kind of the rural street setup it is now to an official city street with sidewalk, storm sewer. In the process, we'll also be redoing the underground utilities that are there, particularly the water, which is undersized. And so what is to happen tonight is for this board to collect some comment from the public, answer questions, and just kind of take in information. And then after that, you all will have a chance to discuss, and if so desire, make recommendations to the council as a way to keep the process going. I guess two important things tonight in response to your question, Mark. One is, again, this is public comment. It's a good time to get information and ideas. Before the project is officially approved and moves forward, there will be an official public hearing. So that's not what that is tonight, or this is tonight. This is kind of an informational session, I guess. And the last thing I'll say here is that the intention, or what we need to do, is get this particular project completed before the South Main Street project in 2018. So the intention is to get this done in 2017. 16, I'm so sorry, thank you.
Paul, what are we using as far as the estimate for a linear foot for installation?
Per cost for sidewalk, you mean?
Yeah, for sidewalks.
I'll hand that one off to Brandon when he's ready here. Brandon is our engineer.
On the spreadsheet that people are looking at that was kind of handed out tonight, though the front footage is what is shown on the Jefferson County GIS system for the linear foot of each lot along East Lake Park Place right away.
Oh, I see there, you've got the estimates.
Yeah, so
at the
the
top
street
there.
frontage is the second column from the left. And those were pulled directly from the county's GIS website, which is, I would say, the most accurate measurement that we have. A lot of these parcels are fairly old and don't necessarily have a CSM or a plat of survey. They were originally put into the county GIS from some sort of plat, but those might go back quite a few years. The Jefferson County GIS is, I'd say, the most accurate representation we have at this time.
Is there any thing in the future that might result in these estimates being off, such as a shortage of concrete, such as we had a couple of years ago, something like that, that you foresee or anything like that?
Well, the estimates provided here are intended to be somewhat conservative, meaning the end price or assessment to the property owners will be based off the actual bid price of the project. So the numbers shown here, or the price per square foot or the price per linear foot, is intended to be conservative, so that we aren't shocked by when a bid comes in slightly higher than what we had used to estimate. We're trying to be the other way around. Hopefully, you can never guarantee anything, but hopefully the price per unit would come in lower than what's used for these estimates.
And if I understand, the prices that we have here are based on unit costs that we've seen in the last couple of years.
Correct. Yep.
And if this moves forward and is approved and bidded out, what's the schedule for bidding and construction estimate? Just,
We're going to shoot for January. There is some
for bidding?
Correct.
for bidding. There's some timelines with assessment that we may not be able to formally award the contract until some certain statutory timelines are met. We have to get state approval for the assessment, I believe, first. But we're shooting to bid the project in January and start construction in April or May.
And finish in fall?
August, probably.
Okay.
We will have to keep the school calendar in mind as we do this, since this is heavily used during the school year.
Okay. Thanks for the quick overall there. At this point, I'd like to open it up for public comment from anyone in the audience. Please use the podium and microphone there so that people listening on television can hear your comments. And please state your name and address.
Okay, I'm Steve Merson, and the address I'll use is the Fish Hatchery, 302 South Main. I don't have a whole lot of information on this yet. I just did want to make some comments on, since we have 1,600 feet, we have a semi-entrance on that road, so in the planning, that'll have to be considered so that we can get our trucks and heavy equipment in and out of there. The next thing would be on the east lot line, the city has a electrical box, and we maintain that roadway going back through the woods to that electrical box. It's a big transformer. So we'd also probably need to have a drive there so that we can access that, and all of the tree trimming crews go back through there. When the citizens, complain about any dead trees back there, we have the cutters go back and take care of it all. So there's a spot there where, there's gonna have to be access. Third thing is, when the Grove Street project was done, the sidewalk starts right at the curb and goes to the fence. And when the snow plowing's done, that's usually about 3 feet deep all the way from the road to the fence. Everything on the road ends up on the sidewalk. So since this is going to be 1,600 more feet, I just wanted to know that, are we going to have a terrace? Is there going to be 3 or 4 foot terrace between the curb and the sidewalk? Or are we going to have 1,600 feet where all the snow on the road just gets plowed onto the sidewalk, and then we're, really not having any way that we're going to be able to remove that? I mean, without taking a tractor on the sidewalk, I guess, and trying to scoop it and figure out where to go with it. So I just wanted to bring up, those are my initial thoughts on the thing, without seeing a map or really having any solid information. I just wanted to bring that up and make people aware that those are some things that we are be concerned about.
Be allowed to address that.
Very good, thanks, Steve.
My name is Mike Johnson. I represent Westland Partnership, 203 East Lake Park Place. This is the first I've seen of these road costs. I got to compliment you on the printing. It can't be any smaller and the light couldn't be any dimmer. The rationale, the lineal footages, have you done your spreadsheet based on a prorated lineal foot? Or I'm seeing rates here from 102 for lineal foot to $26 a lineal foot. So the other comment I have is that these are more engineering issues. I have a driveway approach there, and I'm looking at some of these stations, and the elevations of the sidewalk in some cases are 4 feet higher than the road. Is that true?
I don't believe that I can interact with you at this point.
Oh.
Well,
Yeah.
as a public comment?
You can?
Sure, yeah.
Well, the elevation sidewalk above the road will vary. I mean, I don't know where exactly you're looking, but
Stations 15, 14 through 14, 15, 16.
yeah, there, on the south side particularly, there is some pretty big grade changes between the sidewalk and the road due to, there's an existing slope there that's pretty steep.
Well, I have a driveway approach there.
Oh, you're talking right next to your property there?
Yeah, and I'm knowing, how are you going to get a sidewalk 4 feet above the, when there's a driveway approach there?
Yeah, let me just,
What station number did you say?
14 and a half.
go ahead, Dwayne, if you see something there, but 14 and a half. At your driveway, that 15 and a half, I understand that you do have a drainage concern or issue there now. So we were planning to build the sidewalk up to try to alleviate that problem, to keep the stormwater in the roadway. The other thing that you may be seeing is if the sidewalk is up above the roadway, I'm trying to get to that page. There, you have a berm there with some trees on it.
Yeah,
That if, we could lower the sidewalk, if you're okay with getting rid of that berm, that would have to be a discussion between, we'd have to grade your property
okay.
significantly. And if you're okay with that, we could do that,
Well,
but.
that's fine. I guess the question is if I can have some communication with you on that point. I don't want to take up time in a public
Yeah.
hearing.
Yeah,
Sure,
absolutely.
Absolutely, yep.
Yeah.
We would love to do that.
I don't know who you are, though. I know you're at Strand.
But just talk with the city and
Yeah.
they'll get you in contact with the right people, right, Paul?
Absolutely, yeah.
The only other concern that I have is that I know there's a detention pond on the south side of that street which drains significant water from the high school. And in the past, from my standpoint, I don't know if that's sized properly. And the other question is the storm sewer main in East Lake Park Place going to be able to handle that capacity? It's been it runs and it goes over the road now, so.
Yes.
Yeah, we're aware of that.
Yeah,
And, when we did Catlin, we tried to alleviate some of that. The issue that has to be addressed somehow is the water coming off the parking lot.
Yeah.
The parking lot wasn't pitched correctly, and exactly what we can do with that, I'm not sure. We've eliminated some of it, but I don't know if we'll ever alleviate or eliminate all of it.
Well, I'm sure with the road and the curb and gutter, everything will be mostly going away, but my main concern is the driveway approach and a 4-foot
Absolutely.
sidewalk. So I'll contact your public works.
Yeah, I think, actually, once you got to that page, I think that you were looking on the other side of the road. It's actually fairly flat on your side of the road. So, but it would be great to get maybe a meeting to talk about some of these things.
Thanks, Mike.
Hello, my name is Bob Otto, and I own the property 123 East Lake Park Place. It's a 8-family. Was there information that was provided about what the plans are? I don't have any information. I've received a letter. He seemed like he had some information about.
It's on the website.
Oh, it's on the website.
When it was, yep, it's on there, and the public can view that at any time.
So it's under the Public Works Board packet?
Correct. If you just go to the city's homepage, on the right-hand side, there'll be a listing of our boards. And if you click on the Public Works Board, it'll take you to the agenda, and any supporting documentation will be on there, including the
That's-
plans.
So it's the agenda for tonight's meeting. It has some information in it,
Okay.
including some engineering information.
Is there going to be sidewalk on both sides?
Yes.
Both sides of the street? And for how? And from, it's from
The full length of the street.
full length of the street. Are you, East Lake Park Place, is that just going east, I guess?
Yes.
It's just going east. That's the road that's going to be.
Connects with, what's the street coming?
Well,
southbound?
ultimately it connects with Pinnacle.
Pinnacle. I'm not sure how far
Grove.
Pinnacle goes down.
Yeah, Pinnacle is up on,
And Grove.
Grove is right up on top of the hill to the east there.
So all the way up to the top of the hill where there is some existing sidewalk up there.
I see. Okay. Is the special assessment just for the sidewalks?
At your property, yes.
Okay, it's not for the road itself.
At your property.
Pardon?
Not the road, he said.
At his property, it is not.
Right. It is not the road. It's the sidewalk
Okay.
at your property.
And how would I get an idea of what the cost is intending to be?
That should be on this long sheet.
Should be on the sheet.
Did you get the
Should
long
be on the
sheet? This sheet?
Okay,
Yeah.
So if you know your parcel number, well, it's got got owner name there too. And so there's an estimate for property owner. That would be the appropriate column for cost.
okay. And who maintains the sidewalk then?
As far as sidewalk, if the sidewalk needs to be fixed,
No, like.
then
snow-
it's the city. But as far as
Snowfall.
snow removal,
Snow
that
removal.
is the property owner.
Okay,
That's the way it is for everybody in the city.
all right.
has been for years.
Is there really a necessity to have sidewalk on both sides of the road?
Well,
That's the policy.
if you don't put it on both sides, there's kind of a shooting match as to which side it should go on. So that's why one of the reasons the policy is both sides is to not favor one side or the other. So in general, it's on both sides.
I see.
Mark, I'd also like to add at this particular location, I think is more important because you're right next to the high school,
Yeah.
that there's more pedestrian traffic coming from both sides of the road and all north, south, east, west, and towards the high school there.
And it has been a particular concern with pedestrian traffic for a lot of complaints,
As far as
people walking on the roads.
walking on the road?
In fact, in this particular project, if you go to Google Street View, there's actually 6 people walking on East Lake Park Place in the online map, so.
Well, they cut through the parking lot, and then they cut through I don't know, there's some school office building there,
Yeah.
and they cut through that parking lot, and then they walk the street. I mean, they could walk straight out and take the sidewalk. I mean,
One of our concerns is to the east where there's like youth football fields, youth soccer fields. That's a very busy area too.
see.
And yeah, being so close to the schools and coming up into the Pinnacle residential area, I think it'll be a well-used sidewalk. And as Mark said, it's a policy that we've been trying to maintain for several years to put sidewalks on both sides.
Okay, well, I'll have to look at the information. I should have realized, I guess it was on the website, but,
And we found that once the sidewalks go in, people do use them.
Yeah,
approximately how much land is gonna be taken, I guess?
How much land will be taken?
Well, it's not gonna be taken, I'm sure, I mean, it's
It's
a right-of-way you have, but,
Sure.
So the right-of-way there's no right-of-way acquisition, correct?
No, the new street and sidewalk will fit in the same area.
oh, really?
So the width of the street is the same?
The width of this particular, in his case, the width of the street will not change. In fact, next to your property, we're keeping the same curb line, but the sidewalk will be behind the
Okay,
existing
that's
curb
what I'm
line,
asking.
inside city right away.
So one of the things that people frequently don't realize is the street is a certain width, but the right-of-way, the street right-of-way, which is, the city, basically it's city property, it's,
Correct, I
is
understand.
beyond the street.
Right, I understand, but I'm just wondering how much land that will be.
Yeah. So another thing that's kind of a policy is that the city typically, unless there's a reason, very good reason not to, the sidewalk is located 1 foot from the private property line.
I'm trying to,
Correct.
it's like 1375.
Well, I have to say, there's a lot of sidewalks in the city. And there's a lot of sidewalks that aren't maintained in the city. They're poorly maintained,
Mm-hmm.
so.
Are you talking for snow removal or for,
No, I'm just talking about just the way they're not level,
yeah.
Well, we've instituted policies to take and try and deal with that.
pardon me?
We've instituted policies that have tried to deal with that.
Yeah, every year
Funny.
every year the council approves a certain amount in the budget, and then we go out and repair as much sidewalk as we can with that. And as you say, there are areas where the sidewalk, we need to get to it yet. We're really, the only hamper is how much money we have in a particular year, but we're definitely working on that.
I guess my only point is that, why make more sidewalk if we're not maintaining the sidewalk that we have? But I realize people walk on that street coming from the high school, and other people walking their dogs and people in the neighborhood. But I guess I'm here just to find out how it's going to impact me.
And by the way, it also connects Grove Street with Main Street, so I assume that the volume of traffic, pedestrian traffic, will increase significantly once it's in.
Okay. I should know. I've owned the property for about 13 years now, but I don't know where Grove Street is.
Oh,
I know my.
Grove Street is the road coming down at the Mormon church.
Okay. I go about as far as my property. Meadow Ridge Court, and then that's it. I have the two other 8-family homes.
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
First of all, I can't hear what's going on. You make it louder, you go off the mic like I'm going to. You don't know what's going on here. Is that okay?
Well, I'll certainly talk up. Can you hear?
Well, see how close I get to this mic, and I'll bet they'll be able to hear me.
Can you hear me okay now?
That's my wife is asking for some information. Like this, see? Can you hear me now? Is that what you like?
Is that too loud?
Okay, I'm Earl Tobel. My wife Dolores and I own the property at 504 South Main. And we front that on Lake Park. And along that side, we have an opening in the curb for the house, people that live there. And then I have another opening to go in the back lot. And those openings, I want to know if they're going to remain there when you get done with your work. Who can answer my question?
What the question is what?
there's an opening in the curb,
Oh,
and I want it left there so I can get, the renter in my house needs to drive through there, and I didn't get in my back lot. So who can answer my question, or should I see somebody else later?
Currently, we were proposing to eliminate those, but that certainly could.
I can't hear you again, sorry.
I said, currently, we're proposing to eliminate those, but that could certainly change. I do know that it's generally city policy to only allow one driveway onto one residential lot. And you currently have one on Main Street as well.
I live at 510 South Main, I'm talking about the property on 504 South Main. That's the one I'm interested in, that fronts Lake Park.
Right, at 504 South Main, there's one driveway that goes to Main Street, and then you have those curb cuts that go to the sides of the lot. We were currently proposing to eliminate the ones that go to the side of the lot off East Lake Park Place, but that could change. We were proposing to eliminate them because usually or generally, according to city policy, that you get one driveway entrance to one residential lot.
I'd appreciate it if we could have it there, because that is proper to build a garage back there. Sometime the zoning would allow it, I would do that. So anyway, I have a few more questions. Is the city clerk here tonight? Is Misty here?
yes.
Hi, I want to know who I'm talking to when I call up. Nice to see you. Nice to meet you. Okay, then, do you have the sidewalk is going to be what size then?
5 foot, correct? 5 feet.
Okay. And of course, the property of ours would go up to the school line. That's no problem there. And from there on, I don't know what's going to happen, but like he was talking about the snow getting put on the sidewalk, that happens now already. We all know that's going to happen again, but it's a hell of a mess when you got to go and take that wet stuff out of there. So that could be looked at, even for the South Main Street people. You would have a lot happier people on South Main Street because we're all done cleaning up. Then somebody goes down the road 20 miles an hour and shoots it all back on the sidewalk. So let's give that some information. Now, anybody have a question for me?
I don't think so.
What's the tentative date to start here then?
What was that?
Tentative dates to start.
The spring of 2016, so April, May, whenever we can get started in the spring of next year.
Okay, that would be interesting. I'm interested in that thing. Then, is there any? Are you going to have a map that we can look at sometime to see what it's going to look like? A street map or anything?
Yeah.
Okay, who can I see for that?
I guess if you have any concerns, you take and call City Hall, look at the documentation on the website,
Yep.
because this packet is on the website. And if you have any questions, give the City Hall a call.
And who am I going to talk to at City Hall?
I'll give you my card, Mr. Topol. You can
Okay.
talk to me.
That's good. Any other questions for me? If not, it's been nice meeting you. I've lived in Lake Mills ever since forever. I'm the oldest person here, in case you want to know. So, nice to meet you, and take good care of us on South Main Street, all the way up the south end of town. That's where the rest of the Topos are. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll print off one.
So anybody else wishing to speak at the public comment for the proposed special assessment for sidewalk? Okay, if not, we'll close that part and then move on to item 6, discussion recommendation, proposed special assessment for a sidewalk installation, East Lake Park Place.
Is there a prepared motion?
No, there's not a prepared motion.
No, my understanding is that if you've got specific recommendations that you want to take to the council, you can put those in the form of a motion. There doesn't have to be. You know, if you simply want to pass it on and let the council do their thing with it. Am I doing that right, Vicki? Am I wording that correctly?
Sure. One thing that you might want to do is take up the question from I think it was Mr. Topol about the extra access on East Lake Park Place to his property. If that's something that you want to support, you might want to have that in your motion.
Well,
So-
do we even need a,
So no, the staff is not looking for a motion necessarily, or just, are you looking, would you prefer a motion from the board tonight?
You'd want to have some kind of a motion to make a recommendation, because from here it'll go to a preliminary resolution at the council.
Okay,
I guess I would move then, East Lake Park Place and Griffith Street reconstruction proposals as, presented, and also any concerns that have been presented here or somebody should in the future that staff could possibly handle. I don't know how you want to word that.
That was pretty good. Well, I think two things, and maybe I better wait until the motion goes through its process here, but
anybody want to make a second on that?
Say it again. I almost hate to ask.
East Lake Park Place and Griffith Street reconstruction as presented here in our packet, and staff would take care of any possible concerns that been presented or now or in the near future.
All right, I'll second that.
Okay, so these are preliminary plans, and there's, you know, time and opportunity to adjust things for whatever issues there are.
yeah, and if I may, the only comment I'd make is that I think most of the information we got today will simply require us to communicate with the landowners.
Yes, which you normally do.
Right. And the only exception would be what Mr. Topol said, or requested, if we have to deviate from a policy of more than one access to the driveway, or to the property. But that maybe won't necessarily come up until we've had a chance to look at it and talk with him a little bit more. So if I'm understanding the motion, that's the intent, that we simply proceed with the planning and communicating with the landowners. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much as normal.
Yep, okay.
I believe also the gentleman from DNR
Yes.
for the fish hatchery needs some additional access too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the electrical box
Yes, and another,
and the.
there was a
Is
semi entrance.
Yeah, is there a proposed semi-entrance? I couldn't see on that.
It's there.
Yeah,
The driveway's already there.
right.
Yeah.
So Steve is basically asking, leave it there.
Okay.
And then in regard to his other one, I think that's kind of an informal entrance back there because of the way the shoulders of the street are. But again, we need as much access back there as he does, so certainly we'll make sure that happens.
Okay.
So I have just a question on the the terrace between the sidewalk and the road. Do you know, Brandon, what the minimum terrace is on these plans?
I think that actually it's the minimum is over towards Main Street. We are proposing to keep, where there's existing curb now, we're proposing to keep most of it other than some spot replacement where it's cracked. And in that stretch, it would be about 6 to 6.5 feet wide. That would be over near the residences, towards the Main Street end of the project. And then I guess generally for most of the project, on the north side towards the fish hatchery, which would speak to snow storage concerns, it's about 14.5 feet wide. So there should be quite a bit of storage there for snow.
And will we have to build up kind of I don't know what the technical term is for the sidewalk on the north side of the street?
On the north side.
So
North side on the fish hatchery side?
Yeah,
regrading because of the ditch? Is
Right,
that what you're thinking?
yeah, we'll have to fill that in. It should look, kind of like a normal street, I guess you'd say. The sidewalk, slightly higher than the curb and,
So to fill in that ditch, does a lot of fill need to be hauled in, or is there existing material?
there'll be a decent amount of existing material. The existing road likely, doesn't have quite as much thickness to it as our proposed road,
Oh.
so there'll be some fill coming out from under and also utility trench excavations. There's always a little extra that comes out of those. We'll have some pretty good sized storm sewer,
No, yeah.
so that'll be a good amount of material coming out of the roadway as well, so the
where will
hope is
the,
that there shouldn't be a whole lot needed.
where will the storm sewer empty?
Right now it's proposed into the ditch area, kind of, there's a pump station on the north side of East Lake Park Place. It's
Yeah,
kind of, there's a fairly good sized ditch. East side of the fish hatchery. East side of the fish hatchery and the north side of East Lake Park Place. And then that ditch flows along the east side of the fish hatchery and down into Rock Creek eventually. So that ditch will be maintained as is, pretty much.
do we have any real problems with Griffith Street?
Not really. Griffith Street is a pretty straightforward. Not really doing anything.
And that already presently has sidewalks, right?
Well, one side does.
One side.
Yeah. Okay.
Any further discussion? Okay, so we have a motion on the table to recommend more or less the plans as presented with input and discussion from staff and property owners. All right. Roll call, please.
Mr. Pickard?
Aye.
Mrs. Wolf?
Aye.
Mr. Fritsch?
Aye.
Motion passed
Motion-
3-0.
Next on the agenda is number 7, discussion recommendation on capital improvement projects analysis and timeline. Something we discussed at our last meeting, correct?
Yes, this, I was going to say, this came out of our discussions from a couple of meetings, actually, as we put together the capital improvement plan. And the idea, as we discussed last time, and what we attempted to put in a draft form, and I want to stress it's a draft form, is a timeline to accommodate the discussion, a good, full-ranging discussion on how we select projects for the capital improvement plan, how we determine what method of repair or construction we're going to use, and really kind of to get us all, on the same page and talking about the same things and ultimately get us to that point in July when we've got to come up with some ideas for what to put in the budget.
Now, as far as scope of this is, in terms of capital plans, this is specifically roads, correct? That we're talking about here? Not,
That's a good question. I think our intention, or we kind of based our discussion on that, but I kind of see where you're going, so,
because capital plans in general,
yeah,
there's a lot of things there.
absolutely.
I would recommend biting off the road piece and then see, get that completed and then see if discuss at that time after completion of that if it's needed, and if so, what's needed for additional. Anybody else have any input on that?
No, I think it's a good thought.
I would think there might be some component of evaluation of utilities when we're talking about the streets.
Yeah.
as we're going through this process. So
Right.
I would think we wouldn't want to completely separate them,
Very good,
as
yes.
we're probably going to be talking about some projects that are related to the utilities that may impact
Yes.
the priority of a certain street.
Yes.
And again,
And stormwater always, of course, too.
yeah,
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
stormwater as well.
Yeah.
And that is really, we wanted to present this so that we could start talking about how do all those impacts play together.
Yeah, good.
So, that's a good point. We may somewhere in here just want to identify that the discussion should include all infrastructure. Utilities, storm sewer.
Related to road,
Right.
so, part of our capital planning is electrical distribution system, which may not have anything to do with the road,
Right.
and that's kind of out of the scope of this. But other utility and infrastructure related to road and road surface.
Yeah, makes
Yeah.
perfect sense. I got you. We'll include some kind of comment to that effect in here, yeah.
Good.
So, and I realize this is the first time you guys have seen this. We're looking tonight, if you've got some real clear things that you want us to change, we'll do that. Otherwise, we'll certainly be discussing it again next month. And because it's a new tool, if you will, we'll be reviewing and revamping it as we move forward. The one thing I noted that we didn't put in here, which is maybe more or too specific for this timeline, is whether or not you want to continue the tour that we've done the last couple of years, and if so, how do you want to use that? When do you want to use it? That sort of thing.
Personally, I liked it. It gives me a better visual understanding of the problems that we face. Just so that we would be able to do it, maybe it would be better on I hate to say this, on a Saturday, so everyone can see it in the sun, not at night.
Sure.
I personally, I found it very helpful.
And you can certainly discuss that, and we can decide dates and all that. The other one I would ask about, related to the timeline, but not necessarily something we have to do every year, is do you want, or what do you want for information about different practices? How chip seal differs from slag. Would you like demonstrations? How much information do you want on the different ways to repair or to respond to?
I guess speaking as a non-engineer, I would say, quite frankly, and again, I can only speak for myself, demonstrations certainly, I think have an impact on, once I see it, then I know what you're talking about. And if we can do it, like even during construction or something like that, where you could notify us so we could come down and watch it, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, and there's videos, stuff
Yeah,
like that.
video.
Just make sure that, again, the whole idea is to make sure everybody's got as much information as they need to have a really good discussion about how we want to do what.
And especially if we start using acronyms and stuff like that.
Yes.
And
Message
shorthand.
received.
For you guys, you're familiar with the shorthand. I'm not. And so, and I assume probably for zoning and stuff like that, that gets kind of hairy. Well, we don't deal with that too much.
No.
Yeah.
So for me, the, different methods of maintenance for roads, to me, what's I'm interested in is, what are the advantages and disadvantages of those methods, especially cost and, what's the useful life extension as a result of that method. So
Sure.
Those to me are the key
a good cost-benefit analysis of
Yes,
the different
but then
methods.
there's always the soft things about, okay, oh yes, it's got this great cost benefit, but it looks terrible, or it's a pain for the people while it's being put on, or, there's always the soft things too.
Oh, that's not soft.
Would it be cost effective to put in Roman roads?
I think we have some. I'm sure we have a few, we probably have a few turnpikes, to tell you the truth, somewhere. We tear off the surface. Okay.
So I had a couple other comments, at least one here. For what we're doing here, I think the develop overall vision to me is kind of like a goal. What's the goal of doing this? And then if you have a goal, how do you know if you've achieved the goal, which involves how do you measure, what kind of metrics you have to say, to support that, yes, we're doing what we intended to do.
Okay. Yeah, I anticipate, we'll discuss this more, anticipate that'll be tied to the passer ratings, and if we see improvements in those, but yeah,
Right.
we need to make that link.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Like, is there any way to quantify how well our reconstructions are holding up?
Well, I think it'd be
Other than saying, well, we've got potholes in it, but that's not really a quantifiable description.
One way we could do that is look back in the past and see how the Pacer ratings have changed from the time that a street was reconstructed, or a certain type of method that was used. Say chip seal with slag was used in 2009. How has that held up in the last couple of years, and how has that Pacer rating changed? I think we've talked about possibly including that as part of our data collection.
Are engineering processes changing dramatically, or is it relatively slow, or, we seem to be in a very rapid change culturally, or is it still pretty much tried and true methods that we're using?
Well, in terms of the full reconstruction method of maintenance, I think that it's remained fairly steady for 20 years or so. The one thing that might differ is some differing policies in base course gradations. They're always doing more research in terms of asphalt mixes and what are better in different temperature ranges. And what kind of loading in terms of traffic, which mix you should use for which application. I think that's something that's been evolving. You might not necessarily be able to tell, because to most people you just look and it's asphalt, but the type of oil, the amount of oil, the type of aggregates that are in the asphalt, they're always evaluating that and kind of coming out with new recommendations on what to use where. So that could be part of what's been evolving recently.
I think within the city, some of the things that have changed recently, using a little bit more slag than, say, just the chip stone.
All right,
That is,
like, for example, what's slag?
so the slag is a byproduct.
Well, slag is what we used in Brookstone this year. It's the black stuff, and basically slag is the bottom ash from a coal plant. So it's a tougher but smaller granule material.
Where would we get that from, Milwaukee?
Well, we work with the county. Now, where they actually get their slag product, I don't know, but it's become pretty popular. So we have Jefferson County do a lot of our sealing, and this is something that they've been using relatively heavily in the last 2 to 3 years, I guess they'd say. Yeah, we used it on North Ferry. It's the dark stuff that's got a little bit of sparkle to it for a while. Yeah. So that's a different, it's the same concept, but a different coating than traditional chip seal. Now, chip seal, to our understanding, is tougher. We would use chip seal Probably more in the industrial park than we would in an industrial area because it has a little longer life. The one thing I was going to say in response to your question is perhaps the initial construction of streets and roads hasn't changed a whole lot, but the new sealers, the new coatings, the maintenance stuff, I think has probably gotten a lot of attention. And even to the extent of what you use on the streets for salt, how much, and the whole brine thing, you know, that the UW, I know, and I think Purdue is big in really researching what you do after the street is constructed. You know, when should you chip seal? You know, it used to be you waited for a while. Now they're saying chip seal the following year, and you'll get more life out of the place, so, or out of the street. So I think in terms of where's the research, where's the changes, it's more in the maintenance than the initial construction. I hope that's a fair statement from what I'm reading.
I would say it is. There's definitely a few initial construction things that seem to be newer. You know, that they have types of fabric that you can put down. I guess would be kind of a maintenance thing, but they have some, you know, if you do a mill and overlay where you take off a couple inches and then put the asphalt back on, well, there's asphalt left under that usually. And if there's cracks in that, you often have issues with those cracks come back through the surface pretty quickly. They have some fiberglass overlay fabrics that can go in between those two layers that tend to prevent that fairly well. You know, that's more of a maintenance thing, like you were saying, but it's not exactly cheap, but you know, the cost benefit of not having cracks back in your road a year or two later, not having to crack seal them and all that effort that goes along with that, you know, you could weigh that out as an option as well. But
Yeah, there's quite a few different products for sealing cracks too, and that technology has changed. And this is kind of where I was coming from when I asked the initial question. Obviously, there's a lot going on, and there are a lot of different options, and to really have a good debate, you need to know a little more about those. And so I'm hearing pretty clearly we need to provide a little more information, a little more education on this kind of stuff, for you and for us, by the way.
Good information. Anything else on capital improvement projects analysis? Timeline? All right. This also had, I see, recommendation on the agenda item here. I don't, personally, I don't think we need to make one. I think we're pretty following what we talked about at the previous meeting.
Yeah, you gave us a couple of things to include.
Yep.
We'll do that.
Yep. Very good. All right, moving on then to item 8, is recommendations for future agendas.
Is there anything coming up in the utility world that we need to be concerned about?
Well, let's see. We do have the public hearing for the water rate adjustment will be December 9th. That information's on the website. It'll be in the paper. It'll be here. Yeah, we'll do a telephonic from here. People will have 4 different ways they can submit comment. And then next year, 2016, we'll be continuing finishing our south loop around the lake and the south end of the city, and beginning to get ready to clean up the cluster on the south end by the mill down there in preparation for South Main Street reconstruction. Some of our poles on the west side of the street will have to go back a little bit, both for the construction time and for when the street is finished. So those are probably the 2 big things coming up in the next year. The other one is we are beginning our water meter replacement. We're going after the really old meters that we've got sitting out there, and that will be a lengthy project. So we're going to get a start on that. I anticipate now it'll probably be closer to right after the first of the year that we'll actually hit the streets, but we're getting all of our everything together and ready to go.
So how many meters are you talking about in the, say, next 6 months?
What I can tell you is that we borrowed dollars $30,000 to begin, and that will get us about 150 meters.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if we're going to get those in the next 6 months, because we don't know exactly how fast it's going to
Yeah.
go. Some of them are residential, some of them are larger. But that's what's going to happen, is we're going to find out the answer to that, how quickly we can do these things. And just so you're aware too, I guess, and we're maybe drifting off the agenda a little bit here, but Dwayne has identified or put together a spreadsheet that identifies about 300 meters that we want to get to as fast as we can. So that's our goal, is to get to those 300 as quickly as we can.
All right. Anything else?
As far as the electrical stuff, supply, there's nothing in the offing as far as,
No, the report we're getting from WPPI is that they are in very good shape for the next several years. Last week, I think it was last week, the city council approved a contract extension with WPPI. And, like I say, everything we get from them is, things are looking pretty good. Now, I know you always ask this question, could something happen that would throw that off? And so I'm always going to hedge my bet and say, yeah, could happen. In fact, the guys were talking that we're not real excited about the wind forecast for Thursday and Friday. We like it when the leaves are on the trees, because it slows the wind down a little bit. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
are we okay with leaf pickup and all that?
We completed a brush pickup. That went well. It was about a week's worth. And the report I got from the guys is that, it seems to be slowing down. Mother Nature will dictate how long we do that. But as long as the weather holds like this, we'll be able to get quite a bit done. That might make the spring a little bit easier.
Yeah. It's been a nice fall.
Yes.
All right. And if nothing else, then we'll move on to item 9, and I'll declare the meeting adjourned. Thanks, everyone.